Hello, Eric Michael here, back with another beautiful chapter of The Stars Above. But before we get into that, I have breaking news. This just in. I'm not a scientist, but I do believe to have made the greatest archaeological discovery of the 21st century. I believe to have found remnants of the lost city of Atlantis. You know, contrary to popular belief, it is not in the Bermuda Triangle. And I suppose considering I found it, that I am a scientist, so us in the science biz tend to refer to that as a common misconception. That's a common misconception that Atlantis is in the Bermuda Triangle. It is actually here at Pyramid Lake. I have found remnants. I have proof. They are relics to an ancient time and civilization. Somebody call Graham Hancock. I know that man is been looking for the lost city of Atlantis for God only knows how long. I think maybe his whole life. I think that he was literally born, and as a baby he has been searching for the lost city of Atlantis. That's at least what I gather from Netflix. Somebody please contact him. I do not have his contact. I suppose as a scientist I probably should, but this is new to me. Being in the science biz is new to me. Misconceptions are new to me. Contrary to popular belief is new to me. I've only just now made this discovery. So please, somebody, if you could contact Graham Hancock, just let him know it's been discovered. You can end your search. I know that this has been your life's mission, but buddy, the search is over. You've been looking in the wrong places. Maybe if you hadn't looked where it was obvious and you had gone with the common misconceptions, you would have seen that a common man such as myself could have found it. A common man such as myself found this lost city of Atlantis. You didn't have to be a scientist, but now that I've found it, I am a scientist. So yeah, anyway, I wanted to share that. I also have the relics here, and I'm going to show you what I've found. Thank you. I found this mirror and this fork. I do believe, I do believe that this fork belonged to the myth Ariel from The Little Mermaid. I believe that she used this fork back in Atlantis to learn how to comb her hair, and she used this mirror to learn how to comb her hair well. And I'm assuming that this mirror is what made her so vain, because I can tell that this isn't a regular mirror. I look 10 times better than I ever have. It might be a vein mirror like they have in the gyms where it makes you look thinner. This is making me look much better. Yeah, I believe these belong to Ariel. I found this teapot kettle. I believe this was it belonged to Poseidon. He used it to serve tea under the sea. He used it to serve tea under the sea. Anyway, this is Poseidon's tea kettle, tea under the sea. They had tea parties. I found this chalice. This chalice is likely a wine chalice. I can see that there's red. There's red stained in here. They likely had some Cabernet Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Noir, Sauvignon Blanc. I don't know what the purpose of this horn is. I'm still trying to figure that out. It might have been to alert the, what are the people called that are experts in wine? Sommelier? I think it's sommelier. I think it might have been to alert the sommelier, I'm ready for more wine. Come bring me the wine. Yeah, that's the chalice. I found this lantern. I'm not sure how this played out, because to the best of my knowledge, when you light a fire and you put water on it, it goes out. So I'm not sure how this worked down there under the depths of the Lake Mother. Perhaps Atlantis was an advanced civilization. They may have had advanced fire that does not go out when you light it. Again, I'm not sure. Now that I'm a scientist, I'm going to be figuring this mysteries out. Graham Hancock, if you want to collaborate, I think that this is a good place to start. There's a mystery at hand, and I may need help because being a scientist is new to me. So yeah, this is a lantern. This is a bellman's bell for front desk at what I could only assume was the early stages of a motel. People would come to the motel and they would ring this bell, and the bellman, what have you, would come and they would say, "Are you checking into the motel?" And they say, "Yes, I'm actually from the Bermuda Triangle. I'm actually from the other location, the Bermuda Triangle." Common misconception, that was not the real Atlantis. That was just a subdivision. Another barrio. That was another barrio of Atlantis. The bellman says, "Did you just come from the Bermuda Triangle barrio?" They said, "Yes, I did. I would like to check into the motel." They did that, and then they checked in. This is another bell. It's made of 24 karat gold. I could tell because I bit into it. I believe that this was also a bellman's bell, but it wasn't. They didn't use this bellman's bell until they upgraded the motel to a hotel, and it was called Hotel Atlantis. This is not to be. What's the phrase? This is not to be mistaken. This is not to be mistaken for the Hotel Atlantis in Reno, Nevada. I believe they're just a cop out. I believe that they're just phonies. They're not the real Atlantis. This was from the actual Hotel Atlantis at the bottom of the Lake Mother. I do believe it's possible that descendants from the ancient city of Atlantis could have come out of the lake, and there may be descendants working at the Hotel Atlantis. They could be connected, but again, I'm not sure. That's another thing that I think that we'll have to look into, me and Graham Hancock. Yeah, so this was the Hotel Atlantis bell, 24 karat gold. If you'll excuse me, I think I have to piss. It may have been a false alarm, but there's somebody here. There's somebody here. I think they're venturing out of here, and we're going to begin the reading. It's kind of difficult to read with all this stuff on, and I know that I've talked about I know that I talked about how I want to stand up and do more readings, but also it's really difficult because I have scoliosis. I have scoliosis and it's really distracting. I woke up this morning and my back really hurt. So I'm dealing with it, but I think for a while I need to go back to using my chair because it's healthier for my back. Like I said, I'm not a limber guy, but I'm trying my best. And that's really all that we can do, you know? That's all that we can do in life is try our best. So anyway, yeah, I think I'm going to get into today's sponsors. Today's sponsor is snorkeling equipment. Snorkeling equipment allows you to see beneath the surface of the water through these goggles. It's like this. It goes on and it suctions to your face, and you put the strap on and you're able to see beneath the surface of the water. Also, it has this breathing apparatus. The breathing apparatus allows you to breathe while you look beneath the surface of the water. It's a really remarkable invention. Some people like to go out to the Caribbean. They like to look at things like coral reefs and what have you. I'm not much of a coral reef guy. I like to come out to Pyramid Lake and snorkel. And, you know, lo and behold, you come out to a place like this instead of a coral reef, and you make arguably the greatest discovery of the 21st century, you know? So it just goes to show. So anyway, yes, snorkeling gear, today's sponsor. Also, shout out to today's sponsor B slash sponsor is arm floaties. These are my arm floaties. I don't need them. I do know how to swim, but it is legend tells it that there are malevolent water baby spirits out here that live at the bottom of the lake mother. And you see the thing is it is said that they'll come out. They'll come to get unsuspecting swimmers, and they will pull them to the depths of the lake mother to be swallowed by the depths. And I don't necessarily believe that they are malevolent. I do believe that they are benevolent, but they're probably malevolent to people who come here and throw Budweiser cans into the bushes. You know, the litter bugs come out here and they throw Budweiser cans, and that is when the water babies turn malevolent. They will come out and they will suck you down into the depths. I believe that if you come here and respect the land, the water babies are benevolent. But I'm just not taking any chances. That's why I have these, because when you wear the arm floaties, it is going to be much harder for the water babies to pull you under into the depths of the lake mother if you have flotation devices on. And I want to play it safe. I don't want to take any chances, because for all I know, they could be the guardians of the lost city of Atlantis, and I just quite literally took a fair amount of their relics. By the way, I'm not going to be putting those into a museum. I know that that's probably what a person would do that would like to share the relics of a great archaeological discovery, but I will not be putting those into a museum. I will be taking those home with me, and I'm going to be putting them on a shelf, because I made the discovery. Graham Hancock, if you want to collaborate, we can talk about that later. But yeah, those are today's sponsors. Also, third shout out is to my new friend, Ranger Marco. This is actually the second recording I've done of this. I got halfway through the chapter and Ranger Marco came down, and I didn't notice him because I was so focused. I was so focused on reading, you know, and he was very polite. He waited until I took a break in the segment. I probably looked very strange. You know, I had just discovered all these things, the lost city of Atlantis. I had my arm floaties on. I was freshly out of the water from snorkeling. But he was so amazing. We had a nice long conversation. Just tremendously beautiful soul, remarkable person. Shout out, Ranger Marco. Thanks for checking in on me. I just realized that I said out loud that I'm going to be taking these relics. Ranger Marco, please don't alert the authorities. Keep that to yourself, that I found these relics, because I don't want to be banned from the lake. This is a very special place to me. I don't want to be banned. So anyway, yeah, I feel like I'm rambling. Well, let's just get into today's chapter. Holy. Chapter 7, Marilyn's Eye. While born in California, much of my early childhood was spent on the Caribbean island of St. Thomas, a place the sun shined over pristine beaches and coral reefs glistened in crystal clear waters, where colossal ships docked with tourists seeking pina coladas in any direction steel drums were heard. A sensualist Garden of Eden, but for me, a paradise of purgatory. We lived in a large house broken into 3 sections, one much too big for our small family, considering that man hadn't allowed our own mother to live with us. It was an old and eerie, run-down manor which sat beneath a hill shrouded in palms, which blocked out light and left corridors dark. The circle-wrapping foyer was lined with towering statues of Indian chiefs and samurai warriors, whose stares brought terror with each pass. I've never seen a tropical haunted mansion movie, but it was the perfect setting for one. I'd been wise to spend time unseen, knowing what pain was by an early age, both physical and non. I was consumed by the fear of that man's unrelenting aggression, having felt great horror within the whispering walls of that home, one so big a child could find themselves seeking refuge in dark areas of faraway corners. I knew all the best hiding spots as a child, those I became much better at finding, having hidden from myself as I grew older. But there was no better space than behind closed eyes. It wasn't darkness found there, but the infinite, a panorama of color, sound, and endless possibility, worlds of which the jesters opened doors to playful rooms unknown, where they'd tinker with toys for a sad little boy. There was a library atop the 3rd floor, high enough above to not be heard or looked for. I'd read children's picture books my mother would share at bedtime, Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Alice in Wonderland, Goodnight Moon, Peter Pan, and those of Dr. Seuss. She'd put herself directly in the shoes of those characters, reading not as fiction, but reality. It left me believing that those heroic stories were truly her own. She'd tell me the tales of her never-ending story, saying such things as, everyone knew whoever let the sadness overtake them would sink into the swamp. And so, as Artex fell to the sorrows, I pulled and I pulled, fighting against the sadness. You must always try, fight and fight, my Icarus Mikhail. You must care and never give up. She'd never let the horse drown within the swamp, nor ever tell it to be sad. I believe in her eyes, if she spoke as Atreyu himself, for example, soaring across the infinite sky on Falkor, it'd instill a hope within me that she was my hero, and always would be. Those tales of magic, wonder, and peculiarities held strong influence over what I believed capable to create. All that was carried as truths of might in my life were those considered as make-believe. My mother's tales may be nothing more than flashes of innocence caught between the horror, but they shed light on the idea that there was something greater life had to offer, a place between the pages of which I still reside today. Other than hunting for sand dollars with her in search of infinity, one of the happier memories I have of my mother in that period was when she took me to see the movie Casper. We watched it in an old pink theater with watered-down cola and stale popcorn. One scene stuck with me more than any other, when the friendly ghost flies Kat out to the lighthouse overlooking the bay. She asks Casper, "What were you like when you were alive?" I don't remember, he says. You don't remember anything from your life? What school you went to? How old you were? Your favorite song? Well, what about your dad? Not even your mom? Is that bad? No, it's just kind of sad. There were so many instances to come where I wished to be like Casper, Unable to remember the things I'd seen, fears felt, or pain embodied. The life I'd known was just as cold as that of a ghost, but at my mother's side, the movie left me feeling warm and safe. In the following scene, candles flicker by a photograph of Kat's mother as she tells Casper, "I wonder why you don't remember anything." "I guess 'cause when you're a ghost," he replies, "life doesn't matter that much anymore, so you forget." Sometimes I worry that I'm starting to forget. My mom, just certain things, the sound of her making breakfast downstairs, the way she put on her lipstick, so carefully. I do remember she always used ivory soap, and when she'd hug me, I'd breathe her in so deep. I remember before I'd go to sleep, she'd whisper in my ear, stardust in the eyes, rosy cheeks, and a happy girl in the morning. "Casper, if my mom's a ghost, did she forget about me?" He lays his head down beside her to whisper softly, "No, she'd never forget you." My mother lived up the road in a small apartment by herself, having given up everything to be as close to her children as possible. She worked as a hotel bartender. Most of our time was spent at the end of a poolside counter, where she'd make me Shirley Temples with a sword-pierced cherry, and a little umbrella hanging off the side. Meanwhile, the man who raised me would sunbathe while getting a read on codependent women looking for their own slice of paradise, having reeled them in to strip their self-esteem. He fed on insecurity and targeted the most vulnerable aspects of fragility in others, like an emotional reaper harvesting souls. He satisfied himself with me in the same ways, leaving me to feel half dead half the time. What good did devouring a child's weakness do? I'll never know, but he seemed to become stronger with every bit of it. The sadistic spell of his word was parasitic. "Icarus, your mother is evil," he'd say. "She's sick, a criminal, drug addict, and unfit to be in your life." Those screams of malice looped like psychological programming, as if being conditioned to hate my mother, causing subconscious battles to be waged. Before ever given a fighting chance to feel affection or understand compassion, I grew to know hatred and fear. Love became a distorted concept I'd attempt to grasp in desperation, but only ever left me painfully misled. While there are foggy areas not collected with ease, some images remain burnt into my mind, being just as vivid decades later. I remember the night woken to my mother yelling from the front door. "You can't keep them from me, you bastard!" she cried. "They're my kids! You can't fucking do this to me anymore!" I remember the trembling steps taken down the staircase, having gripped each chain that hung and swayed from the ceiling. I remember crossing into the foyer, and the feeling of tears trickling. I remember the look of utter despair on my mother's face as she begged from 2 knees. But what is remembered in most detail that night was the sinister smile stretching ear to ear on the face of that man as he held a 12-gauge shotgun to her head with his finger on the trigger. As a 6-year-old boy, I knew the menacing gaze of a man who not only knew he could take a life, but craved it. That hollow-eyed stare wasn't one I'd ever forget, for how he looked at my mother in those moments became the only way he ever looked at me. I used to hate being haunted by such memories, having questioned why they were so deeply woven into my thoughts. It took a very long time to realize the purpose in recalling traumatic events. While we may wish to abolish the past, truth is, confronting a memory will teach you more than living it ever could. Without doing this, we can't face its pain, nor grow from its peril. It's how we choose to move forward into the morrow that remains to be written. While those years were grim, there was one event on the island which triggered a deeper understanding within me of the human condition, the unity we do in fact possess, and the compassion, or perhaps desperation, it requires. The date was September 14th, 1995, when Hurricane Marilyn struck the U.S. Virgin Islands. I cried for the safety of our mother. "Please save her, Dad. I don't want Mom to die." Perhaps some buried part of him felt sympathy in the face of natural disaster, albeit short-lived. Whatever reasons he may have had for taking her in, I remain grateful for the decision. As the inner rim of Marilyn's eye struck the island, we took shelter in the basement. Without power, that day and night were spent in darkness. The only reassuring sense of presence was in the tight clenching of each other's hands as words of hope were wept. "Everything will be okay," my mother repeated. "Don't let go, Icarus. Don't let go, Evan. No matter what happens, never let go. We will always be together." Their heartfelt words of which I still hear being whispered softly, forever etched into my soul. Gusts of wind howled like ghostly abominations. Windows blew out as shards of glass rang like chaotic chimes. Thunderous shockwaves coursed through walls as neighboring roofs crashed forcefully into our own. Faint trickles of water echoed against the cement room like ringing in the ears. Shivers ran, confusion raced, and shrill cries pierced seldom moments of deafening silence. Are we being punished? I wondered. Is this how it ends? Fear was rampant, feeling to have met our imminent and violent downfall. It was the first time I truly questioned the existence of a fair God and the irrational purpose of his savage acts. Having survived the longest of nights and Marilyn's drawn-out passing, we'd venture forth, hand in hand, upon destruction in its totality. "Mom, why did this happen?" I asked. She wore a smile with eyes of sorrow, squeezing my hand tighter. "Sometimes bad things just do," she said, "but we must move forward from them. We can't let the sadness overtake us. Always remember that, Icarus." The neighborhood was barren like a ghost town, as if the sole survivors of our island's rapture. Scattered debris of structured paved. Please forgive me. I have so much sunscreen oozing into my eyeballs. I'm trying really hard to stay focused, but it's oozing. It's quite literally oozing into my eyeballs, and it stings. The neighborhood was barren like a ghost town, as if the sole survivors of our island's raptured. Scattered debris of structures paved each road with sad reminders, homes upon homes brought to ruin, with only foundations identifiable in the wreckage. Trees that weren't uprooted were entirely bare, while cars and ships were thrown within still-standing shops throughout town or capsized in the harbor. One sailboat was flipped onto the sidewalk with a sign painted across its green hull. "Kids, we are okay. M&D." The devastation was haunting as madness spread amongst the souls wandering aimlessly within the tourist port of Charlotte-Amalie. It all felt taken for granted, having witnessed a place so beautiful be struck by wrath of annihilation in the blink of Marilyn's passing eye. Seeing the pain of those who've had their lives torn apart before them is a sight gone unforgettable, no matter what you try and repress. Not a single person was without a 1,000-yard stare, no eyes without tears, and no heart without loss. But that pain brought another hope of sorts for me, as I began to witness what must have been a miracle, the breathtaking unification of people as one. I was being raised within a broken family, only believing to have understood what feeling hurt was like. Yet now I felt something else inside, having caught glimpse of a much bigger picture. There are few things more beautiful than that which follows destruction, for devastation brings forth promising rebirth. Just as life grows after a forest is burned, tragedy gives way for empathy, one of humanity's greatest virtues. A trigger in our emotional response towards understanding that there's so much more to us as people than we originally thought. On that disastrous day, there were no racial indifferences, tourists torn from locals, nor wealthy looking down on the poor. The severed souls on St. Thomas weren't strangers, friends, or neighbors. They'd become families free of division. The comfort of a hug given by someone never met, food distributed by those in need of their own nourishment, hands held in prayers of hope and grievances, regardless of religion or beliefs. There was a communal awareness shared between one another that day. Having suffered together, we'd become one, the very essence of our remarkably unique existence in this universe. Marilyn was projected to be a small storm of which grew into that once-in-a-lifetime occurrence for the many, and one of the most powerful hurricanes of the decade. A couple days after, the Air Force arrived to evacuate those they could off the island, but for most, that was home, having nowhere else to turn. Those who struggled without shelter, electricity, constant waits for water and food distribution, gas for generators are the most basic of supplies. The courageous individuals who withstood great trials under shanty-tarp structures, enduring the long and weary months to follow as FEMA worked tirelessly to bring stability back to a community leveled by Mother Nature. Whether good or bad, past events help shape those of our future. It wasn't until much later that I began to fully understand the emotions coursing through me that day on the island. It took a very long time to process those lessons while implementing them into my character, having developed a respect for life mirrored by the hardships of disaster. I grew as a person willing to show more consideration and kindness towards a world in constant states of distress, realizing that as a species we must learn how to put our differences aside and help one another, dire conditions or not. Otherwise, we won't be needing Mother Nature to destroy what's taken so long to create. We'll do a good enough job of that ourselves. The unification on that day was nothing short of inspiring. However, it was still small potatoes in comparison to the entirety of the world. To think what humanity could accomplish if united as a collective, without disaster, is daunting to me. For how could we even come close in a world so full of fear and hate? The cynic in me worries that the only tragedy which may cause such cohesion would surely be one too catastrophic to come back from. But for those choosing to believe in that world and work towards that future, regardless of shape or size, we do have the potential to make this place right again. Either that or die trying. I may be a hermit, but even the most reclusive man knows that we're only human so long as we're together. In some beautifully peculiar way, that sand dollar felt much lighter now in the palm of my hand. I gently brushed my thumb against its star before meeting Celine's eyes with a smile. "Where do you go?" she asked, laughing. "Whatsoever do you mean?" I replied with a grin. "When you wander off like that? If not for leaving, I may never have arrived." Curious, though it still begs the question as to where. Is it not arbitrary? Where could be somewhere, nowhere, or anywhere at all. Perhaps wherever where may reside. It's a place only you could ever find me. You're a strange bird, Irk. You know that? Takes one to know one, Toots. I'll never be able to express just how much that sand dollar meant to me, what it would have meant to my mother, and what it obviously had to Celine and Kimmy Lee. Nothing more was needed to be said. The gesture itself spoke 1,000 words, having carried the love of 1,000 lifetimes. A simple sand dollar, beautiful, perfect in every way, just as those passing days of yesteryears and beyond those of the morrow, no different from infinity itself. Oh my God, my fucking eyeballs. I'm sure you are not supposed to spray the thing right into your face, but mistakes were made. Common misconception. I just learned about this. I just learned about common misconceptions. A common misconception is that you are supposed to spray the sunscreen directly into your eyeballs. That is a common misconception. You should not do that. Figure out a different way to apply the sunscreen on your face, because I'm in a lot of pain. That was hard to read. That was hard. But I powered through, I may have had to take a break and wipe my eyeballs, I think that I'm going to go squirt water into my eyeballs. That may help. But just don't spray it directly into your eyeballs. It's not how you're supposed to do it. That's a common misconception. Anyway, I really appreciate you tuning in today. Thank you so much. This has been another pretty remarkable chapter of The Stars Above. It's so serendipitous that on this very day that I read a chapter about the Caribbean hurricane, I just so happened to stumble upon the greatest archaeological discovery of the 21st century, the lost city of Atlantis. I find that to be very serendipitous. See, the magic is just occurring. I read the story and there's just magic happening because I've given belief to the unreal. So it's very important with this story. You open your mind to belief in the unreal. It's just magic stuff happens. You come out to a lake unsuspecting of things to come, and you discover the lost city of Atlantis. Because I have an open mind. Because I carry belief in the unreal. And just these magical things happen. I have these relics. They're proof. They are literally proof of magic. Everyone thinks the lost city of Atlantis is a myth. There are so many doubters out there. Shame on you for doubting. If you were once a doubter, shame on you. Believe in the unreal. As Graham Hancock says. What does Graham Hancock say? Oh yeah, as Graham Hancock says, we live in a world of amnesia. We live in a civilization of amnesia. Of amnesia. That's what he says. Because people have forgotten. People have forgotten how to believe in the unreal. They have forgotten magic. We live in a civilization of amnesia. Amnesia. Graham Hancock, reach out to me. Let's collaborate. I have all these relics. I will bring you back here. I will take you snorkeling. Shout out today's sponsor, snorkeling. Snorkeling gear, arm floaties. Graham Hancock, let's go snorkeling. I will take you to the lost city of Atlantis, so long as you do not throw your Budweiser cans into the bushes. The malevolent water babies will be benevolent. Everything will be good. Let's make changes in the world. Let's make people believe in the unreal. Let's make things magical again. I no longer want to live in a civilization of amnesia. I want to live in a civilization that believes. Anyway, that's the chapter today. Thank you so much for joining me. Check it out. Do you hear that? The war crow and the mother crow are feeding their 3 young in the nest. Oh my God, that is so beautiful. That's today's chapter. That's a wrap. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.